Hey guys, and welcome to this session on rebuilding the basics. Today we're going to take a look at the filter function. Filter function comes built in straight into Python, and there's no need to import or install anything. And basically its job is to take in some sequence. So in this case, let's start with a list. And its job is to basically say, from a sequence, filter out certain items, and that's it. It's pretty simple. So let's give a really simple use case. We'll see what it does, and then we're going to try and jump in and look at how we can build this ourselves. So let's just do, if I do a function called def is over 5, let's say this takes in x as its parameter, and then we can do return x greater than 5 here. So if you envision something going into this, so imagine you pass 10 into here, this will do return 10 greater than 5, so return true. So you need some kind of function that returns true or false. So if you imagine running this over this, you're going to get true, false, 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 true. Okay? So now if we do filtered as a variable, we'll do list, filter, and then it basically takes in your two parameters here. So it's a function or none. I'll come to none in a second. Basically, it's a function followed by a sequence. The function, you pass it in just by name, you reference it like that. No need to do a call. We're not calling it here, we're passing it. And then on this side, we just do nums. There we go, like that. And what this does is returns a filter object. And then with this filter object, it's basically like an iterable. You can iterate directly over it, or you can convert it to a different type, such as a list or a set or a tuple or something like that. So generally I'll pass list in front of this. So let's see what filtered contains. Hit run, and we have 10 and 6. Suppose we add some additional numbers. Let's add 10 that is rounded to 15, 22. And then we have it, just like that. This doesn't have to be a function passed in here. You could pass directly in a lambda. If I do... Let's recreate this same one here. So do lambda x greater than 5, like this. And this will do exactly the same job here. You can also pass in none as well. You can't leave it blank, you have to actually pass none in. And what this will do, this will basically go through this and return the truthy items, which is a bit of a weird one. So if I run it like this, we get everything back because we don't have any false, if you were to run bool of 10, 15, 22, 1, these all have a true value. Only things like the empty list, empty string, the 0, 0.0. So if we did, say, a 0, an empty list, and then some stuff in a string, these are all true. False, false, true. So we should get the same thing back. But yeah, see how we've got that 6 exclamation mark? That's because these two are missing here. So that's what happens if you pass none. It's basically like doing, to be honest, I would argue it's the same as doing this, really. If you're doing I for I in nums, if I, that's basically the same. So if I do this here, yeah, that's the same thing. So include it in the list if it, if I, meaning, if the Boolean value of something is true. And that's what that means. So our job today is going to be to rebuild this from scratch. We have to be careful that, if a function is passed, we need to make sure it's callable. So we're going to be checking for that. We need to make sure that sequence is actually a sequence, and can be iterated over. So we'll need to create some custom errors as well. Let's just show you kind of what happens if I, pass in some things which will make this go wrong. Suppose rather than nums, let's pass in 4. There we go. Hit run. We get int object is not iterable. So that's one of the things we're going to be catching, and we're going to be creating our own custom error here. Let's go ahead and put nums back. Let's just say I just did a is 5. If I pass in a as the function, of course, this isn't a callable function, so we're going to get type error. Int is not callable. So that'll be another error which we're going to create a custom class for, and then we'll raise it inside our function. And again, the point of these really is, again, it's one of the things I used to do when I was first learning how to code, and I think it's a great way just to practice the kind of internal workings of Python. You're doing, creating things like list comprehensions, functions, you're creating custom errors, you're raising those errors using control flow. In my view, it's just a great way to kind of get to grasp with the basics of the language, and it's a bit of fun trying to recreate something that already exists. So without further ado, I'm going to clear the screen for a bit and we'll jump into creating this from scratch. So to begin with, I'm going to do def filter func like this here, and let's do our parameters first. Now we'll come back and revisit the type hints at the top, but I'm just going to say func and sequence here. There we go. And of course, like with the original one, this returns a filter object, which is cast. We've cast it to a list. We'll return a list straight away, just from the offset, and I'll do a quick doc string as well to say return. Of course, you can probably do this better than I can. Return items from sequence, which are true when passed to func as well. Of course, not accounting for that none section here. But yeah, just something to at least give us indication as to what's happening. Now, what I want to do first, I kind of want to focus on catching the errors. It's generally a good idea to sort of try and catch all the errors, catch all the edge cases at the top, before we then go into doing our logic. So what if this is passed in and this is not a callable function? Now, this is quite easy to detect. What we do if not callable, and you pass in func here. Basically, callable will return, so if you passed in like callable len is a callable function, so that returns true. Of course, if they pass in, I suppose an integer, the integer will go to here. This will return, in this case, well, it's going to return false. So basically, we're using this right at the top to say if a function's passed in, or something's passed to func that isn't callable, then let's stop and do something here. So we'll do just print not okay for a second. I'm going to put this in as like a placeholder. So we'll do print filter func, and let's just do 10, and we'll pass in a sequence directly like this. Okay, good, we get not okay. Now let's try and catch the sequence, and then once we've done that, we'll replace these with actual errors. In my view, I think there's many ways of doing this. One of the things we look for to detect if a sequence is actually a sequence is the presence of this guy here. So if you run, I'll show you actually, if you do print dir of list, for example, we'll look at all the attributes of list. And there's one which, there you go, iter. So it's iterable or iterative, basically. It's kind of, it's what you can use to tell if you can iterate over something. And in that case, I'd argue that this is enough for now. So we can basically say, does the thing that's passed in here have this? Right? So what we can do, we'll do if not, and then we'll do has attribute here. Has attribute basically just kind of scans this list effectively. It scans all of the attributes of the the thing you're passing in. So we'll say sequence dunder iter. And just like that. So we're basically saying if the sequence does not have this attribute, then do something. So we'll do print not iterable. Just like that. Let's bring this up a bit, make some space. So at the moment we've got something up here that isn't callable. So we see not okay. And then I want to pass in an integer. Your integer won't be iterable, so we should expect to see not okay, not iterable. There we go, lovely. Okay, now let's pass in a list. So our list shouldn't make this fire because the list is iterable. Lovely. Now let's replace 10 with, let's pass in len. Cool, so when you pass in a valid function and a valid iterable, yeah, none of these fire off and we're good to go. So what we want to do obviously is replace these with something a bit more tangible. So I'm actually going to go up here and create a brand new exception. So we'll do not callable error. This has to inherit from exception, basically because the base exception class can be raised. So in Python we have this raise keyword here. A base exception can be raised. So if we inherit from this, we can raise this. So let's do raised when a non, of course I'm rushing this a little bit just for the doc strings. Raised when a non-func is passed. Okay. Then we'll do the other one as well. So we'll do non-iterable error. And this is also going to come from exception. And then I'm going to steal this, put this guy down here, make it line up. And let's do raised when a non-iterable is passed, not interable. There we go. Cool. Alright, now let's replace these guys out. So if a function's passed in, or if something is passed in as the function, which isn't callable, we are therefore going to raise our not callable error. We're going to pass in something here. I'll show you this in just a second. And of course, we'll replace this print here, and we're then going to raise our non-iterable error down here. We'll pass in something here as well. You see how it does this? Let me see if I can do that again. This args here. If we pass in a string to this, because we're inheriting from exception, if we pass a string here, this actually ends up being outputted to the console, which is quite useful. So you can put in whatever message you want. So we can say, please pass a callable function, something like that. So that'll do for now. And let's do something down here as well. Let's do please. And I'm always terrible at making these up. So we'll do please pass. Let's just do a valid iterable. You could even print like what they've done in here, to say this sequence is not iterable or something like that. So if we try this again, it's no syntax errors. All good. Let's pass in 4, which is a non-function, and there we go. Check it out. Not callable error has been raised. Please pass a callable function. So this is working. This is raising this error, and there's the error it's raising here. Let's go back, revert this guy out, and just do 0. So 0 is a non-iterable. And there we go, non-iterable error. Please pass a valid iterable. So we have created and raised both our errors right from the offset, which is pretty good. Now, there's still the elephant in the room, which is this non bit here. So how are we going to deal with that? Now, basically, that's, of course, this bit here is going to detect anything that comes in. So at the moment, if we passed in non here, see that? Not callable error. So we don't want this to be raised if non is passed. So what we could do if func is not non and. So yeah, quite wordy. Let's try that again. Okay, let's do an iterable, shall we? But it didn't raise that, and that's good. Let's do the iterable and try this. There we go. I'll clear the screen and hit run again. Perfect. So what's happening here? We're basically saying if the func passed in is not non. Okay, so basically, like if non was passed in, it doesn't even bother checking this. So because we passed in non here, it does. Okay, was the thing passed in? Was it not non? No, it was. Okay, cool. So don't bother checking this, and therefore this can't be raised, which is good. So yeah, just a bit of a simple addition to our if statements to make this work. So now we need to get down to the actual kind of logic of the, how do we map our, sequences through this function and return the right things. And of course, if none is passed, we have to do something. If a function is passed, we have to do something else. So we're going to kind of do something like this here. We'll do if func is none, return something. Otherwise, return something else here. So that's going to be the basic structure. You could try and handle like both of these in the same list comprehension, but that's going to be a mess and no one's going to be able to read it. So personally, I would go for the more simple approach and just do this. So if they passed in none, we just want the items from the sequence that equate to being true. So we'll do item for item in the sequence if item, right? So that's a nice simple way of doing that here. And of course that returns here, so it stops. However, if the function is not none, then this doesn't happen, so therefore we jump straight down to this. So for our second one, we're also going to have a list comprehension as well. And basically, we're going to do a similar kind of thing to this here, except it will be, item for item in sequence if, then we'll pass item to our function, and the function, will return the trues or the falses. So, literally take that, bring this up here, and just do func of item instead, like this, and we should be good to go. So to test this, I'm going to do x is equal to filter func. We've already tested our edge cases, so let's not worry too much about this. Let's go for non first, and we'll do 0, 1, 2, 0. So we've passed in none, which means in this case, if func is none, we're going to be doing this guy here. So item for item in sequence if item. So basically saying, does the item's Boolean value equal true? And that will be no, yes, yes, no. So, well, sorry. When we print it, there we go, 1, 2. Nice. Change that to a 10, we should get that as well. Lovely. Let's now try if I can bring this guy back. Is over 5. Replace none with this. So let's see what happens this time. If func is none, so no, this is not none. So it's not going to do this. So this time it's going to do this, which means item for item in sequence if func of item. And that basically means that 10 is passed to this, 1 is passed to this, so on and so forth. So 10 is the one that's over 5, so we should... Oh, I've done it again, haven't I? So we should actually see it when we print it. 10, lovely. Let's do some more. Get rid of this gap here, that's a bit unsightly. And that works. Cool. And there you have it, guys. We'll do one more quick run through and then we'll finish off there. So what have we done? We've basically said, first thing that happens, check that function's not none, and check that, in this case, just check it's callable. So if it's not callable, we're raising a custom error, which is defined here. We're then going to check and then say, does the sequence have the dunder iter attribute? And we need this to basically do a list comprehension over to make sure it's iterable. And if not, again, we're going to be raising a custom error we defined here. We then do a check to say, if func is none, just return all the items from the sequence that have the Boolean equivalence of true. But if not, just come down here and do item for item in sequence if, when the item is passed to the function, it returns true. And there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you all in the next session.